Hi everyone, it's Dave here from Brossa Tin Men. Thought I'd talk about what we're playing currently on the tabletop here. So this is Thalassa, Naval Battles on the Ancient Seas. Rulebook on the left, box set that came in on the right. We are really excited about this. It is something very different to what we've previously played. I guess for me personally, being a wargamer of vintage, this was the first wargame I ever played as a teenager. Not Thalassa, but Ancient Naval Warfare. So seeing this come on the market got me very excited. I just had to have it. So the ships, triremes, pentaconters are all 3D printed. You can buy the files from the people that make the game, or you can go to Tabletop Battlefield Training 3D if you're in Australia, which is also me, and you can get the files there. So I'll put up some pictures of the rulebook, some stills later as part of this video, but I just wanted to go through some of what comes with this game. So this is the rulebook, as I said. I'm just going to slip those away and we'll have a look at what we get inside. So what we get inside the rulebook is we get some charts. You can punch these out, and so they're partially punched. What this contains is ramming token, drift token, blessing tokens, broken tokens, activation tokens, flame tokens, ship sinking tokens, the direction of the current, and chaos tokens, and wound tokens, and structure tokens. All very usable. We punched a few out when we started playing, and then I started to get a little keen, so I started creating my own prints. So you need all those to play the game. So now we have a trireme on the tabletop there. So it's played in 6mm scale. So that trireme's a nice size for the tabletop. Then you've also got what we call the pentaconter, which is a little bit smaller, which I'll put next to it. There it is. That's pentaconter. Now I've taken the flags out. Look, usually when obviously these ships are going into combat, they don't have their sails going. They usually take the mast down, might leave them on the beach. For the game, having the sails on the models adds to the beauty of the game itself. It looks magnificent. But what I'll just talk through here is the trireme and the pentaconter and the differences. So these are crew stands. So I'm just going to pop them out. And as you can see, 3 squares in the trireme. So each nation has different troop types. Generally everyone's got hoplites. Some people have marines, some have archers, some have catapults, some have ballistas, and peltasts. So depending on which faction you're playing, depends which you can choose from the list. So this is actually a Spartan trireme, so I've done it in red, and that's a Syracusan pentaconter. The pentaconter doesn't have any crew stands, but generally you can buy an integral marine unit with it, and it's just there. It shoots and it fights. Handy. The trireme generally just has armed oarsmen. So you actually don't need to upgrade it, but generally most players will. So that's a hoplite stand, that's a ballista stand, and that's an archer in tower stand. So if you're building your fleets, like most people play this at 500 points, you probably get anywhere between 5 to 8 ships on the table, whether they be triremes or pentaconters. Depending on what crew slots you upgrade. There are varying differences of what you can and cannot upgrade. And then you determine the rating of your ship. So there's 3 mastery levels, they call it in the game. You have your veterans, you have your experienced crews, and you have your neophytes, which are your recruits, little experience. You pop a little flag on top. You can probably see on that Pentaconta there's a yellow flag. That denotes that there's an experienced Pentaconta crew. Red flag, neophytes. Green, veterans. This impacts the ability to activate the ship during your turn. So a veteran crew, it's a 2+ on the D10. Experience is a 3, and a neophyte is a 4. And this can be changed by factors in the game, namely what's called a chaos token. I'll talk through some of the tokens now. So a chaos token, I'll put one down there for you. That generally is placed next to a ship when it has received a hit from incoming fire, or it has been rammed, or it has been in melee combat during a boarding action. Now these chaos tokens affect your ship activation, your ability to fight, etc. They also come into the factor of that your ship's morale in general. Each ship has a governance value. For instance, the trireme has a governance value of 3. That is essentially your morale. When your ship exceeds its governance value, it is assumed to be broken and essentially in disarray. The crew's lost confidence in the commander. The commander needs to restore order. That can be achieved at the end of a game turn by rolling or exceeding the mastery level. So if you're broken, you're generally rolling pretty high on a D10 to achieve an outcome, to actually get the ship back under control. So it can be quite detrimental to the activation of some of your ships in the fleet. So that's pretty good. Now there's also your dice. Well, I want to talk about the dice because these are important. To determine who goes first in this game, we have initiative, as most games do. This is done. You can hear me with the dice in my hand here. These are interesting dice. There's no numbers on them. I'm just going to put them down there. There's only actual 4 options on these. So the top one is what we call a drift. A player can use this order to resolve a drift with one of their own ships or force an enemy ship to drift. Really handy. I will now place the drift token on the table for you to see. So that's the drift token. What happens here, if you play a drift token on your ship, depending on the direction of the current, and I'll put a current marker down next, so you can see there's the current marker. So let's say the current's going that way. So I put the drift marker on that side of the ship, and then the ship can move anywhere within this area, and the mast determines where it is. You can also turn it 90 degrees. So I could place my ship like that, for instance. Then I could move it. What's also interesting here is my opponent can do that to me too. So if I have my lovely line of battle and I'm cruising up to engage, prior to him moving, he can play a drift dice from his set on one of my ships and place the drift token, and then they get to place where they want the ship to drift. Can be a lot of fun. Can really impact an attack, or it could set one of your ships up for his attack. E.g., he turns it 90 degrees and then he rams you. The next dice there, the flag. This is a bonus action in addition to normal 3 movement actions. So you have 3 maneuver actions in this game. Triremes and Pentacontas. Trireme moves 9 inches. It's broken into segments of 3 inches. You can't move less than 3 inches if you're moving, through the sheer momentum of the vessel ploughing through the ocean with all these oars, it can't decelerate. So if you're moving the full length. So if I want to move 9 inches, I'm moving 9. I can't move 7, I can't move 8. You can move 3, 6 or 9. Playing the flag allows you to move an extra 3, so you can go up to 12. The Pentaconta, being a smaller and swifter ship, normally moves 12. Playing that flag means it can move 15. Turning a ship, you can turn a ship up to 90 degrees, and that costs you 3 inches of your movement. The next one, the ship dice, that can be used to remove chaos tokens during the rally phase. It can also be used as part of an ability of your fleet. For instance, a Spartan commander can use that dice to move a ship prior to anything moving in after the command phase has been rolled. So a Spartan commander can burn that dice and move a ship before his opponent, even if the opponent has the initiative, straight away. That can be quite dangerous for both parties, in fact, but certainly change the dynamic of the game. The next dice there is the blessing token. So essentially you get a blessing token. The blessing token allows you generally to get a reroll. The blessing token. Again, I made that, not 3D printed those. They are part of the box set, but I like big plastic things of colour. So you can use the blessing token to affect an outcome. So if you're getting incoming fire and you fail an armour save, you could re-roll your armour save. You could re-roll a mastery test to make sure your ship moves. So if you want to move the ship, you make a dice roll. You have to equal or exceed your mastery value. If you fail, you can essentially burn any of these dice to get a re-roll anyway. You've only got 5 dice to play with per phase, and you can only play 1 dice per move. So if you're moving a ship, you can play a dice. In the next time you move a ship, you can play another dice. The way movement works is person with initiative may move, he moves 1 ship, then you move your ship. You resolve firing, you resolve ramming, you resolve the boarding action at that point in time. You can do what's called a coordinated move, where you can move 2 ships in tandem. But you can only do that once per turn, per side. And to do that, you have your second ship that you wish to move must make a mastery test at -1, and then you can move them. Very handy if you want to get your ships out of weapons range. So, some of the nuances of the game. I'll just remove some of these. So obviously the objective here is to... Okay, ramming. This is what we do when we ram. This is not probably how it happens in the game. Obviously there's a bit of manoeuvring, but you have the ramming template. So as part of your move, the idea is to get your attacking ship in a position where you can launch the ram. You have 3 manoeuvre phases, one of which must be used to announce you're doing it. You're going to ram that ship. So there's also an option to gain momentum. So for every 3 inches prior to announcing the ram, you get what's called a momentum dice. So hypothetically, if we have spent a contract trying to ram this trireme, you place the template down there. And determining at which point in these brackets the ship is at determines the effect of the ram. This is extended range and this is optimal range. In optimal range, you get an extra dice. It's also a +1 to hit, to cause a hit on the ship. In the extended range, you lose 1d10. You're still at +1 on the dice, but this is basically sort of saying that your oarsmen are a little tired. So you want to try and get them into this range. So let's just remove the sails. I'll put that there and we'll move him to there, just for the sake of the argument. So what would happen here is we look at the charts supplied in the game, which I'm just going to quickly throw down there for you. So we're going to talk about ramming, and this is the ram. So I've placed the template on the table, and there are some options in here. So this is what we call the sweet spot. This is extended range. Now obviously this is at 90 degrees, this is the perfect ramming technique. If you're in that sweet spot, you get an extra D10 to affect your ability to cause damage. You also get a +1 to your dice roll because you're coming in at a very, very good angle. If you're at the extended range, you still get the +1, but you lose a D10 because your oarsmen are a little tired because they've had to roll a lot further to actually hit that ship, and the momentum slowed down a little. So we're feeling the strain on our arms. So what you do is you look up the mass value of the attacker versus the hull of the defender, in which case a Pentaconta has a mass of 5 versus 6 of the trireme. So this chart down here that I've placed next to it, you look at the mass value versus the hull value. So if it's 5 versus 6, it would give me, it says 3D. Okay, so that's 3d10. If I'm in the sweet spot, that gives me 4d10. Let's assume I have 1 dice for my previous movement prior to declaring the ram, which gives me 1 dice for my momentum. So that allows me 5d10, needing a 6 or more to cause a hit on that trireme. So we shall roll some dice. Now I've got a 9, a 6, a 9, a 5 and a 2. So I have caused 3 hits to the trireme. Now the trireme gets a save versus those 3 hits. The trireme, with its armour value, or its armour save of 6, gets 3 dice, requiring 6+ to mitigate those hits. So let's roll those. Okay, roll the 3, an 8 and a 9. So he is saved on 2 and he has taken 1 hit. So what that does is we place 1 structure damage token on the trireme. Triremes have 3 structure. When they get 3 structure, they sink. Now because I have hit him, I move my ship to there. Now because of the Now I've moved the trireme into contact with the ship. We've got 1 structure damage. Now there's a thing called tremor, which is just the shudder impact, the force of hitting. We have a thing called the chaos token. Now chaos tokens are kind of cool. Put a chaos token on him. Chaos tokens detract from attack dice, activations, etc. as per what the rules say. So after you've done that ram, what are my options? My options are I can pull back. I've left a hole in him after all. That's a bigger ship than me. I can board him. And if I board, what happens then is I essentially turn side on. And then we immediately go into a boarding action. And we look at what troops we have on that ship and we start rolling some dice. And we start causing crew casualties. That will also put a chaos token on everyone. The defending ship gets to repel borders if they have the troops to do that. And if they do, and succeed in doing a repel borders dice roll, generally it's 1 or 2d10. Every success removes 1 attack dice from the boarding parties. And you fight and cause crew casualties. If then the trireme was to activate, it could attack me, or it could cut the grapples and push away, which means you separate the ships 3 inches. That's a lot of good fun. Generally, Pentaconters won't go after a trireme because there's more crew on the trireme. Now, in general terms, the game is done by activations. We have the activation token. You put that on the ship that you wish to activate. I'll just remove these from the table for you. Now, once you place that token down, you move your ship. Then your opponent goes to move his ship. Now, I just want to backstep. If, for instance, that Pentaconter had sunk the trireme, we've got these really cool. You can put these on the table, which is the trireme split in half, and then the Pentaconter moves between them, and that's the end of its move. It's kind of cool. When Pentaconters sink, you just put a single one down. Also kind of cool. I love those. They're very picturesque on the tabletop. There's also incendiaries. So when you fire incendiary rounds, you can cause fires. But what they do is you place a fire token on the ship. There's a fire token, and they act as chaos. So detract from the ability of a ship to shoot, move, etc. Game plays really well. As I said, it's generally played at around 500 points. We're playing at 1,000 a side, so because there's 5 players. And obviously, as I mentioned, you buy your crew. When you shoot, you cause wounds. If you cause more wounds than your ship has, it becomes a floating hulk on the tabletop, which you can recrew. You've just got to get to recrew it. You place a wound token. I'll just place a wound token there so you can see a wound token. So it's a wounds token. Again, I've made those little beasties. I'll just zoom in so you can see them a bit better. So it's just a hoplite helmet. Now obviously I've gone to the point where I create, and I've done a lot of painting of the little crew slots. You also have the option of not doing that effort. There are what's called easy crew tokens, which are these little ones. I haven't painted these because I wanted to do the other ones. So they just slip into the crew slots of the ship. As I said, all the ships are generally resin printed. You can do filament printing of the ships themselves, but the stern and the forecastle you generally can't. You've got to still use the resin for those. I'll place a resin ship. There's a resin Pentaconter there that I'm yet to paint. It comes out very well. Depending on the size of your build plate, you get quite a few off. So we are now into our second game of this lovely, lovely game. So I'm just going to scan up for you so you can see what's going on over there. So there's a combat happening there between a Syracusan Pentaconter and a Athenian trireme. As I said, not often triremes Pentaconters go after triremes, but in this case what's occurred here is this is a neophyte trireme. It already had 2 chaos tokens. The Pentaconter went for a ram, caused 2 structure, and because by me succeeding in the ram it caused a tremor result, which gave it a 3rd chaos token, so I've equalled its governance or morale level. And then I thought, well look, I've got a pretty good chance of causing more damage, so we're going to board. So my Marines sidled up and had a crack, and we won the boarding action as well. And we have eventually put another Chaos token on that trireme, and it has become broken. So it's pretty much down and out until the Athenian player can recover its governance or morale. Now I'm just going to pan up so you can see the rest of the table. So